Chapter 86. Successfully defended. The fires had been extinguished. The rubble cleared from the main roads. The blood washed away with enchanted rain summoned by the city's archdruids. What remained was not silence, but song. Victory, after all, was rare. The city of Alandra had stood. Barely. And though the scars still smoked and the scent of death lingered faintly in the stone, the people rejoiced. Banners once sagging with ash now flew proudly again. Children danced barefoot in the plaza, weaving between rows of broken statues. Merchants reopened their stalls, giving out warm loaves and skewers of spiced meat for free. The temple bells rang overhead, slow and solemn, but with a rhythm of triumph. And the name on everyone's lips was Inigo. "The gunslinger?" one soldier asked. "Inigo Velasquez, gold-ranked adventurer," laughed another. "He tore through a full platoon of nightcrawlers with that spinning beast of his. Never seen anything like it. It's not magic, I swear. Just pure iron and death," muttered a shaken archer. Whatever it was, it sounded like thunder and made the demons run. Stories spread quickly. Inigo's minigun became the stuff of legend before the battle was even a full day past. Children drew crude sketches of it in chalk on the stone roads. Tavern songs were already being composed. Ballads where Inigo leapt from rooftop to rooftop, a flaming death machine in hand, while the gods themselves watched in awe. In truth, the man himself sat quietly in the shade of the guild's north tower, sipping water from a wooden canteen. His coat had been cleaned, but the dark stains of soot and blood refused to leave. His weapons were stacked neatly beside him. Minigun unloaded, pistols recharged with clean rune cartridges, and a new dagger sheathed at his belt. Lyra approached with 2 mugs of mead. "You are already drinking?" Inigo said. "It is a celebration, Inigo," she replied, handing him one. "We all deserved a good mead for this day." He accepted it, clinking the rim of his mug lightly against hers. "To not dying," he said. "To thinning mist," Lyra added with a tired smile. They drank. Around them, the plaza brimmed with life. Survivors moved through the market, their steps light despite the lingering pain. Clerics healed the wounded in white tents by the eastern wall. Children asked passing warriors if they'd seen the man who was told to have saved the city. "They are already looking for me?" Inigo asked, raising a brow. Lyra simply nodded. "They do, and most of the answers was they don't know where you are, even though you are apparently mingling yourself here." He snorted. I don't deserve such praise, as I am not the only one who fought in the battlefield. The soldiers, healers, mages, literally everyone in the battlefield deserved some credit too. You really are such a humble man. This is the reason why I have become fond of you." Inigo's cheek blushed. "You have your way of words, Lyra. I didn't expect it. It's too smooth." "Really? You are moved by that so easily. You have no idea how powerful your words are to a man like me," Inigo said, smiling. The mood was cut by the sudden arrival of a familiar voice, booming, gravel-throated. "There you two are," said Guildmaster Thorn, striding forward with his hammer slung across his back. His armor was dented but freshly polished. He wore a dark red sash now, signifying command over the city's Joint Defense Council. "We're holding a public address at sunset," he said. "Need you both on the stage." Inigo frowned. "I don't do speeches." "You don't have to. Just stand there and look threatening. The crowd will love it." He clapped Inigo on the back, nearly knocking the man forward. "You helped save this city. Don't argue." Lyra grinned. "Come on. You stood in front of a demon lord and didn't blink. You can survive applause." Reluctantly, Inigo nodded. Later that evening, as the sky turned a soft lavender and the bells rang again to mark the hour, the city gathered. The stage was built on the stone platform where the demon commander had once stood. It had been cleared and sanctified by high priests. Lanterns hung from the ruined pillars, and soft music played from crystal chimes enchanted by sound mages. Thorn stood in front of a crowd thousands strong. He raised his hand. The noise dimmed. "People of Alandra," he began, voice rolling like thunder. "You stood where others would have fled. You fought when the sky broke. And today we do not mourn, we celebrate." Cheers erupted. He gestured to the defenders behind him. "Your soldiers, your mages, your guildmates, they gave everything, and Alandra stands because of them." More applause. Then he turned to Inigo and Lyra. "Search * the novel fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And these two, they didn't just survive. They turned the tide. The demons themselves descended upon us and failed. The crowd erupted into a chant. Inigo! 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 Inigo stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. He didn't enjoy the attention, but he didn't shy away from it either. Thorn stepped back, and to Inigo's surprise, offered the speaking crystal to him. He took it. He cleared his throat. I'm not from here, he said plainly. Silence. Good day, everyone. This is my first time standing in front of you. To those who don't know, I'm Inigo Velasquez, a gold-ranked adventurer in this city. Just like others, I answered the call for the city's defense, and I believe that those who fought in the battlefield deserve also what I am experiencing right now. That's all. I may not be duty-bound to save the city, but I will not let those demons trample us. He lowered the crystal. That was enough. The plaza roared with approval. After the address, the crowd dispersed into celebration. Music flowed freely. Dancers took to the cobblestones. Old hymns were sung with fresh lyrics. The taverns served until their barrels ran dry. Back near the Guildhall, Thorn clapped Inigo on the shoulder again. The royal family would want to see you tomorrow for this, he said. The royal family? Inigo replied. Thorn nodded. This feat deserves an audience with the royal family. Inigo smiled at the thought. This was going to be the first time of him seeing the royal family since his reincarnation in this world. This is going to be exciting. Chapter 87. Seeing the royal family, the morning sun filtered through stained glass windows as Inigo stood at the gates of the royal citadel, heart beating a little faster than usual. The towering spires loomed above, their silver-gilt edges catching the light like blades pointed at the heavens. Banners bearing the crest of the Alandran royal family, an emerald phoenix soaring above a crown of stars, fluttered in the gentle wind. He had never seen anything like this before, not even back in his old world. Sure, he'd binge-watched fantasy anime where protagonists were summoned to palaces, greeted by princesses, and paraded in front of nobles. But now, it was happening to him, and he was very much aware of it. This is ridiculous, he muttered, adjusting the collar of the finely pressed white tunic they gave him. I'm wearing silk. I look like I'm about to attend prom. Lyra, standing beside him in a sky-blue gown, laughed softly. You clean up well. Try not to trip on the carpet when we enter. I'm used to armor and grit, not velvet and whatever this is. He motioned to his polished boots, which looked like they cost more than most taverns. From behind, Guildmaster Thorn grunted. He looked mildly out of place himself, dressed in a ceremonial uniform instead of his usual war-worn armor. Quit fidgeting, Velasquez. The royals already know who you are. They requested this meeting themselves. Just speak plainly. You'll be fine. A royal herald approached, his cloak trailing behind him like a river of gold. He gave a courteous bow. Heroes of Alandra, His Majesty, King Eldrith III, and Her Majesty, Queen Elenara, are ready to receive you. Inigo gulped. Well, here goes nothing. The massive double doors opened with a deep chime, revealing a hallway lined with armored knights, ceremonial guards, and marble columns etched with glowing runes. A red carpet stretched forward like a ribbon guiding him toward destiny. He walked. Each step echoed like a heartbeat in his ears. He wasn't used to attention, not like this. The streets were one thing. People cheering his name, children singing songs. But this was different. This was elite, powerful, royal. They entered the throne room. It was massive. A domed ceiling soared far above, painted with murals of the kingdom's history. Crystalline chandeliers floated mid-air, held aloft by gentle magic. Silver-plated guards stood motionless like statues. And at the far end of the hall, seated on an elevated dais beneath a massive phoenix crest, were the king and queen. Search *the Ovalfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. King Eldrith III wore regal armor polished to mirror shine, a sapphire-lined cape draped over his shoulder. He looked to be in his early 50s, sharp-featured, silver-bearded, eyes calm but piercing. Queen Elenara was elegance incarnate. Long silver hair cascaded down her back, her emerald gown shimmering like starlight. But her most striking feature was the serene warmth in her eyes. The moment she looked at Inigo, she smiled softly, as if recognizing something in him. Beside them sat someone else, a young woman, no older than 20, with honey-blonde hair tied in elaborate braids, dressed in a white and gold court gown. Her face was delicate, like a painting come to life, and her bright violet eyes fixed on Inigo with open curiosity. Lyra leaned in and whispered, "That's Princess Erilyn, first in line to the throne." Inigo blinked. "You're kidding." "Nope, and I think she just smiled at you." He looked up. She was indeed smiling. His heart jumped. They stopped before the dais and bowed. Thorn dropped to one knee. Lyra did the same. Inigo followed a second late, trying not to look like a fool. The king rose. His voice was rich and commanding. "Rise, defenders of Elandra. Today we offer not judgment, but gratitude." They stood. "Inigo Velasquez," the king continued, stepping down from the dais with a heavy, armored stride. "Your deeds have reached our ears not from bards or rumor, but from those who stood beside you, from commanders, from wounded, from my own knights. You held the line. You shattered the mist. You faced a demon vanguard and lived." Inigo stayed quiet, unsure how to respond. The queen stepped forward now, her presence gentler, like moonlight. "We know you are not native to Elandra. Your accent, your tools, your strange but wondrous weaponry. It all speaks of a distant land. And yet you chose to fight for this city." "I couldn't let it fall," Inigo said, voice steadier than he felt. "Didn't matter if I was from here or not." Princess Erilyn stepped forward now, a bit cautiously, holding something wrapped in silk. She extended it to Inigo. "This is a medal of the Phoenix Star," she said, voice like soft bells, "bestowed only upon those who display unmatched courage and selflessness in the kingdom's darkest hour." He accepted it with both hands. The metal glinted with golden light, shaped like a phoenix rising from flame, its wings wrapping around a crystal core. "Thank you," he said, bowing again. The princess didn't step back immediately. She studied him with wide eyes, then said, "They say your weapon roared like a dragon." Inigo grinned faintly. "It does tend to make noise." A flicker of amusement danced across her face. "May I see it one day? I'll show you how it works," he said. "Maybe." Her cheeks colored slightly. She returned to her seat, clearly trying not to look flustered. The king chuckled. "I suspect your name will echo in these halls long after this war is over, Inigo Velasquez," he said. "And should you ever need shelter, support, or resources, you have only to ask. You are no longer a guest. You are Elandran now." Thorn gave Inigo a proud slap on the back. Lyra nodded with a small, fond smile. The king returned to his throne. "For now, enjoy the peace. Rest while it lasts." The court dismissed with a bow. Inigo followed Lyra and Thorn out of the chamber, medal in hand, stunned by how surreal it all felt. Outside the palace, sunlight bathed the city's towers in gold. "Well," Lyra said, grinning, "was it everything you imagined?" Inigo looked down at the medal, then at the path ahead. "No," he said slowly. "It was better." Chapter 88. Job offer. 3 days after his audience with the royal family, Inigo found himself once more walking the red-carpeted halls of the royal citadel. This time, he wore his usual attire. His armor lightly polished, pistols holstered, and the minigun strapped to a reinforced sling across his back. He wasn't here for a ceremony. This was business. Lyra walked beside him, bow in hand, dressed in her travel leathers. A faint glint of curiosity shone in her eyes. "You really think they're going to send us out again this soon?" she asked. "I don't think they ever stop sending people out," Inigo replied. "I just didn't think we'd be the ones they'd pick next." "Don't sell yourself short. You're practically a national treasure now." He gave a wry smile. A noisy one. The pair stopped at the great doors leading into the audience chamber. 2 palace knights opened them without a word, and the familiar warmth of sunlight pouring through stained glass greeted them. This time the court was much smaller. No nobles lined the walls. No formal choir or chimes echoed. It was only the king, seated on his throne, the queen beside him, and Princess Erilyn standing at attention near the edge of the dais. Guildmaster Thorn was already present, arms folded, his expression grim. "Inigo Velasquez," King Eldrith III said, rising. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Inigo bowed lightly. "Of course, your majesty. You may dispense with ceremony. We've already honored you. Now we ask something of you." Inigo's eyebrows lifted slightly. The king nodded to a court mage, who stepped forward and conjured a large illusion in the center of the room. It shimmered, then stabilized into a map, detailed and marked with animated flags, storm clouds, and shadowy tendrils spreading like a plague across one quadrant. "This," The king said, is the Western Rift. You may have heard of it. You may not. Few go near it willingly. But we now have reason to believe the Demon King has returned, and is gathering his forces within. Inigo's eyes narrowed. Lyra's face tensed. The same Demon King from the legends? Inigo asked. He was never truly gone, the queen said softly. Only dormant. The last Demon King's action a century ago. He was only the rift, staying for whatever reason, possibly gathering so much force to conquer our realm. And now, the king added, we believed Essence is whole again, that the Demon King will start attacking. The rift pulses with dark magic. We've lost 2 scouting parties. The third barely escaped. Their captain brought back a warning etched in blood. He awakens. Sir, the Novelier.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The illusion shifted, showing the vague outline of a dark fortress hidden amid chasms and cursed lands. The Demon King commands 4 generals. The king continued. You've already encountered one, the Lady of Illusion. Inigo clenched his jaw. He hadn't forgotten that encounter. Her magic had warped the battlefield. It had taken every ounce of focus and firepower to break through her constructs. She is only one of the 4 lords. The king went on. The others are worse. And if they complete whatever ritual they are enacting in the rift, not even Elandra's walls will be enough. So what's the plan? Inigo asked. I assume I'm not just here for a lecture. No, we're asking you to go, the king said simply, to lead a strike team into the rift. Not tomorrow, not next week. Soon. As soon as you're prepared. Inigo's breath caught. You're serious? Deadly, Thorn said. We don't need a hero's ballad. We need the man who stood his ground against a demon vanguard with a weapon no one understood. We will fund everything, the queen added. Whatever gear you need, artifacts, enchantments, weapons, supplies, we will sponsor it. You may choose your team. 3 others besides yourself. Lyra stepped forward without hesitation. I go where he goes. The king nodded. We expected as much. That leaves 2 more. Inigo exhaled. He looked down, thinking, I'll need a healer, the best one you have, and a tank. Someone who can take a hit from a demon without turning into paste. Princess Erilyn stepped forward now. Then I have recommendations. She waved her hand, and a court scribe brought forward 2 folders. The healer, she began, is Arienne of Solmir, prodigy, trained by the high priests of the Twin Moons, blessed with light affinity. She healed a battalion's worth of soldiers during the Battle of Iron Deep. She's not cheap, and she doesn't like politics, but she's powerful and loyal. And the tank? Inigo asked. Thorn spoke this time. That'd be Korik the Bastion. Dwarf blood, enchanted armor fused to his body, carries a shield the size of a cart door, fought dragons back in the northern steppes. Drinks like a whale, but he doesn't fall. Inigo chuckled. Sounds like a party. Princess Erilyn smiled. We will send word to both. They will be at your command. And my weapons? He asked. The Royal Forgemaster is already working on a special armor that will grant you and your party essential buffs and enhancements, said the queen. But if you need improvements and access to our state-of-the-art magic arts types, we will supply it. Say the word. Inigo was silent for a moment. Then finally he nodded. Then I accept. The king let out a long breath. You have our blessing, and our hopes. The fate of not just Elandra, but the realm itself, may rest on this mission. Inigo looked at the illusion again. The dark fortress, the twisted rift. He felt that old thrill again, the kind only a gamer-turned-adventurer would recognize. An endgame mission, a real one. We'll begin preparations immediately, he said. Later that afternoon, Inigo and Lyra walked through the guild district, past market stalls and training grounds. The city buzzed with renewed purpose. You good? Lyra asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah, it's happening fast. A month ago I was still practicing dash moves and awkwardly eating burgers. Now they want me to kill the Demon King. You've got the power, and the mindset, and the team. I'm not worried about the fight, he said. I'm worried about the cost. Lyra didn't reply for a moment. Then she placed a hand on his shoulder. We face it together. He smiled. That's the plan. They turned a corner just as a courier ran up with a scroll bearing the royal seal. For Inigo Velasquez, the boy cried. Inigo took it and broke the seal. Inside were names, dates, and a departure notice. Team gathering at Dawnwatch Barracks. 5 days from now. Supplies to be delivered to the guild. Rift portal opens on the 7th day. Good luck. He rolled the scroll and tucked it into his coat. 5 days, he muttered. Better get ready. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight hadn't yet kissed the cobblestones of Alandra when Inigo arrived at the Forge District. He wasn't alone. Guildmaster Thorn had arranged a private audience with the Royal Forgemaster, a stoic dwarf named Brannock Steelmantle, whose beard was braided with silver wire and who wore goggles that constantly fogged from the heat of molten steel. You're the gunman, Brannock grunted, barely looking up from his workbench. The one who makes thunder with your hands. Something like that, Inigo said, setting his Desert Eagle on the work table. Brannock's eyes finally met his. He picked up the firearm with surprising delicacy for someone who looked like he could bench press a wyvern. He turned it over, inspecting every groove, every imperfection, every fine scratch from battles already fought. This ain't magic, the dwarf muttered, but it hums like it's alive, not enchanted but something more, something old, ancient in principle, modern in design. Inigo raised an eyebrow. You say that like it's a good thing. It is. Means I can work with it, improve it. The king said spare no expense. I'll rework the plating with dragon steel, reinforce the barrel to handle higher enchantment loads, and I'll craft you a second one to match it. No need, and since you can do that, I'll have you do my other weapons too. What about armor? Inigo asked. Brannock nodded toward a side rack where partial sets of shimmering gear were being assembled, one for Lyra, clearly tailored for mobility and archery, another with runic shoulder guards and wide bracers likely intended for their future tank, Korik. And then there was his set, sleek, modular plating with smooth contours that shimmered faintly with enchantments still being etched into the steel. It'll amplify your agility, reload speed, and elemental resistance, Brannock said. You'll be able to blink dash without draining your stamina like before. I even made room on the back for that oversized barrel of yours. You're a miracle worker, Inigo muttered, genuinely impressed. No, I'm just good at what I do, the dwarf huffed. Now get out. I've got work to do before you throw yourself into a death trap. Outside the forge, the city had begun to stir. Merchants rolled out awnings, children chased each other between stalls, and the blacksmith's rhythmic hammering filled the air like a heartbeat. Inigo exhaled and made his way toward the Adventurers Guild, where a separate wing had been cleared for training. By midday, he and Lyra had tested 24 types of arrows, explosive tips, elemental shots, even ones enchanted to seek out heat signatures. He'd practiced dash maneuvers in tight combat drills, learning to weave between magic traps while dual-wielding pistols. We're sharper than ever, Lyra said, not even winded. But the rift is a different beast, Inigo replied. I don't know what we'll find there. You never do. That's why we bring allies. That's why we prepare. Later that evening, they returned to the guild's upper lounge. A map of the continent stretched across the table before them, pinned at various points with markers. Scouting reports, magical surges, even rumored movements of the Demon King's generals. Ariane of Solmir had already arrived, sitting cross-legged with a holy staff resting beside her. Her white robes glowed faintly in the dim candlelight, and her expression was calm, almost meditative. She raised a hand in greeting but said nothing, content to observe for now. Korik showed up next, stomping into the room like a living avalanche. His armor clanked with every step, the shield strapped to his back taller than most people. He eyed Inigo up and down, then gave a grunt of approval. So you're the loudmouth, Korik said. You'll hear it soon enough, Inigo replied, smirking. By nightfall, the team was assembled. The rift loomed on the horizon, not just in maps, but in conversation, in breath, in the unspoken tension that crackled between them. As they sat around a table sharing one last meal before full preparations began, Inigo looked at the 3 people around him. A healer who could resurrect the nearly dead, a tank who had faced dragons, a deadly archer who knew him better than anyone, and himself, a man from another world, now entrusted with saving this one. Here's to not dying, Korik said, raising his mug. Lyra rolled her eyes. Great toast, truly inspiring. But Inigo chuckled. Then he raised his own. No, he's right, he said. Here's to surviving, and making sure the Demon King doesn't. They clinked their cups together. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled softly, as if whispering of battles to come. And so the countdown to the rift began. Chapter 89. We are taking the journey with style. The morning sky above Alandra was cloudless and pale, the kind of sky that promised dry winds and dust in the teeth. At the edge of the Dawn Watch barracks, four figures stood in silence, each armored, armed, and alert. Lyra adjusted the grip on her bow. Korik the Bastion leaned against his massive shield like it was part of him. Ariane of Solmir stood with arms folded, her robes faintly glowing under the morning light. Inigo, in freshly polished combat armor, stood slightly apart, his fingers absently twitching near his belt. The city gates opened with a long groan of iron and timber. Beyond lay the old Imperial Road, cracked, worn, and destined to wind through more than 1,000 kilometers of plains, mountains, ruins, and wasteland before reaching the edge of the Western Rift. Lyra glanced sideways at Inigo. "We're walking that?" "Yeah," Korik added, squinting west. "I count maybe 30 days on foot. 40 if the terrain turns sour. 50 if we don't kill each other first." Ariane said nothing, but her eyes narrowed at the distant haze. Inigo took a deep breath. "Actually, we're not walking it." He tapped at the system interface only he could see. It shimmered just behind his eyelids, the familiar blue panels hovering at the edge of his mind. Token balance, 165,235. Purchase, military vehicle, MRAP, armored personnel carrier. Cost, 25,000 tokens. Confirm purchase. He confirmed. A brief flicker, a flash of light, and then the air shimmered like a heat mirage. With a deep mechanical thud, something massive slammed into existence on the packed dirt road just outside the gate. The ground trembled. Dust exploded outward. A hulking, sand-colored MRAP appeared. An armored behemoth on 6 rugged wheels, with reinforced windows, a high chassis, and a mounted turret seat up top. The others froze. "What in the hell is that?" Korik barked, yanking his axe halfway out of its sheath. "Is that a siege golem?" Ariane blinked. "It's not magical, but it radiates something ancient. Mechanical?" Lyra stepped forward slowly, eyeing the armored vehicle from front to back. "That's yours." Inigo grinned. "That's our ride." There was a moment of stunned silence. "No horses?" Ariane finally asked. "No horses," Inigo confirmed. "No oxen, no reins, no whip. This thing runs on combustion. Internal engines. Long story." Korik thumped a hand on the metal door. "Feels like a moving fortress." "It kind of is. But how does it move?" Lyra asked. "You said combustion. Fire magic." "More like controlled explosions," Inigo replied. "But explaining engines to you would take an entire semester of engineering courses. So I'll just show you." He opened the heavy front side door with a loud clank and climbed inside, taking the driver's seat. The others hesitated as he flipped a switch. The dashboard lights flickered on. With a short hiss of pressure and a whine from the starter motor, the engine growled to life. The roar echoed down the street. Steam vented from the exhaust pipe, and the MRAP settled into a low rumble, like a beast waking from hibernation. "Holy shit," Korik muttered, his eyes wide. "It's alive. Get in." Inigo called over the sound. The rear hatch swung open, revealing a reinforced interior with 6 seats, armor plating, storage compartments, and enough legroom for even Korik to sit without folding in half. Ariane stepped in first, settling into a corner with poise. Lyra followed, trailing her fingers along the cold metal. Korik climbed in last, muttering to himself as the hatch shut behind him with a final clunk. From the driver's seat, Inigo spoke over the internal intercom. "Seatbelts." "Seat what?" Lyra asked. "Just grab the strap next to you and clip it into the buckle." After some awkward fiddling and one accidental pull that nearly knocked Korik off balance, the team managed to buckle in. Inigo shifted the vehicle into gear, pressed the throttle, and with a deep mechanical roar, the MRAP surged forward. It wasn't a fast start, but it was steady, powerful. The tires rolled over uneven cobblestones like they weren't even there, the suspension absorbing every jolt and dip. The adventurers inside swayed, startled, but soon adjusted to the rhythm. "This is sorcery," Ariane murmured. "Nope. Engineering," Inigo replied. "And a little bit of capitalism." "What's the top speed on this beast?" Korik asked, gripping a ceiling handle as if expecting it to lurch into the sky. "About 120 kilometers an hour, if the road holds," Inigo said. "But we're not going full speed yet." Gotta conserve fuel until I get more. Lyra leaned toward the front. You're telling me we're going to cross 1,000 kilometers in, what, 10 days? Maybe less if terrain allows. Plus, we don't have to stop at every damn inn and outpost. CTH novel, F. IRD anti-website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Korik gave a whistle. You just killed the entire merchant caravan industry with this thing. Inigo smirked. Yeah, I've been doing that a lot lately. They passed through the outer districts of Elandra, drawing the attention of stunned civilians and a few palace guards on horseback. A few saluted, others merely stared. Eventually, the city gave way to countryside. Rolling fields, wind-swept hills, and narrow dirt roads that the MRAP handled with ease. Birds scattered at the rumble of its passage. The occasional deer darted into the underbrush. The silence inside the cabin gave way to murmured conversation. So, your business together back at the capital. How are you going to handle it now that you two are leaving? Korik asked. We just temporarily closed it, Lyra said. The customers were sad about the announcement, but since we are fighting a major enemy here that could threaten the whole of mankind, we have to do it. Ariane chimed in. So the rift, I remembered you two going inside of it, and inside the rift was an abyss where the Demon King and his demon generals reside. Did you encounter them during your raid inside of the rift? It was only a cave system, Inigo replied and added. Though there are some monsters that are totally different in this realm. I thought it was an abyss at first, but could be part of it. They drove for hours, passing through abandoned checkpoints, overgrown villages, and the occasional set of ruins reclaimed by nature. Every now and then, Inigo would stop the vehicle for a brief rest. The MRAP idled silently, the engine's warmth seeping into the metal walls. That evening, they camped beside a crumbling stone archway, what remained of a centuries-old imperial bridge. The MRAP stood nearby, silent and watchful like a sentinel. Korik made a fire. Ariane prayed in silence. Lyra kept watch, her bow resting across her lap. Inigo sat atop the MRAP's hood, looking at the stars overhead. Do you miss your hometown? Lyra asked, joining him. He hesitated. Sometimes, but I can't do nothing anymore since I can't return to it. Why not? I thought it was just a long place from here. With that beast you summoned you could get back there, Lyra said, confused. I know, but no means of transportation is capable of getting me home. Let's just leave it at that. What's important is that I am alive and living in this place, beside you of course. Things are going fast between us. It has never been a year, but we are already tasked with killing the Demon King. Isn't that absurd? Inigo continued. I don't think so, Lyra replied. And it was not the first attempt that a party was formed to defeat the Demon King. There were already others who had failed. That is what I am keeping in mind. The failed attempts making it a difficult mission and a long one. This mission is going to be a long adventure. She smiled faintly. A long adventure indeed, which could take months or years. Even if the rift is there, we have no guarantee that it's open when we arrive, and if it's not, we'll have to wait. At least we get to discover parts of the world, Inigo said. You are right, Lyra chuckled. Lyra leaned against his shoulder, her voice soft. And no matter how long it takes, we'll see it through. The fire crackled gently below them, casting dancing shadows on the stone arch down at the base of the camp. Korik had finally laid down his bedroll and was snoring in thunderous intervals. Ariane remained awake but silent, her hands resting over her staff, eyes closed in quiet meditation. Inigo let out a long breath. This spot, it's quiet. No beasts nearby, no cursed air, just open sky and old stones. It's perfect. It is, Lyra agreed. Feels like the kind of place where nothing bad could ever reach us. He nodded. We should enjoy that while it lasts. Together, they climbed off the MRAP's hood and returned to the campfire. Inigo laid out his cloak and armor, setting his weapons beside him in arm's reach. Lyra lay close, her bow cradled in her hands like a lullaby. Night, she whispered. Night, Inigo murmured back, eyes fluttering shut. The stars above burned silently as the rift loomed far beyond the horizon. But for now, the team rested, together, whole and unbroken. Tomorrow, the road would call again. Chapter 90. The next day trip, already encountered trouble. Part 1. The road had narrowed into a dirt trail hemmed in by jagged rocks and gnarled trees. The MRAP rumbled forward, its reinforced frame bouncing gently with each uneven dip in the path. Dust curled in the vehicle's wake, hanging in the still afternoon air like smoke. Inigo sat behind the wheel, eyes scanning the terrain ahead, while the others sat in quiet alertness. Korik, ever watchful, muttered, "Too quiet." Ariane opened her eyes from meditation. "There's something in the air. I feel interference. Magical. Distorted." Lyra, bow resting on her lap, glanced out the narrow window. And unnatural silence. Not even birds. That's when the first arrow struck. It didn't hit the MRAP, but thunked into a nearby tree trunk ahead, quivering with unnatural force. Inigo immediately slammed the brakes, the MRAP grinding to a sudden halt. "Ambush!" he barked, already reaching for his Desert Eagle sidearm. "Everyone out! Shields up!" The team scrambled out of the vehicle, slamming the armored doors behind them. Lyra rolled into the underbrush, drawing her bow in a single motion. Ariane whispered an incantation under her breath, her robes flaring with golden light. Korik lifted his massive tower shield, planting his feet firmly like a bulwark of steel and flesh. From the tree line, shadows moved. Dozens. "Bandits!" Lyra hissed. "A lot of them, too organized to be simple highway scum." Ariane raised her staff. "They're enchanted. I see mana threads. Someone's controlling them." "Figures," Inigo muttered. "Can't just get a regular robbery out here. Always magic crap." A chorus of war cries erupted from the hills as over 30 bandits surged forward. They wore patchwork armor, leather, rusted steel, scraps of plate, and wielded mismatched weapons ranging from curved swords to long spears. Some even held magical artifacts glowing faintly. "I count at least 6 ranged units on the left slope," Lyra reported. 8 more flanking from the right. Inigo looked at Korik and Ariane. "You two wanted a test run, right?" Korik grinned like a man offered a tavern brawl. "Hell yes. Just don't die," Lyra added, knocking an arrow. "Let's see what they've got," Inigo said, raising his gun. "We'll hold the left. Korik, take center. Ariane, deal with the mages if there are any. Move." The battlefield erupted into motion. CTH novel, F. IRAD website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Korik charged forward like a battering ram, shield raised high. An incoming volley of arrows deflected harmlessly off its surface as he smashed into the first wave of melee attackers. His axe spun in heavy, arcing slashes, carving 2 bandits down before they could react. Ariane lifted her staff, and shimmering symbols spiraled from her palms. A pulse of holy energy radiated outward, knocking back several enemies and searing others with bursts of radiant fire. Her calm expression remained unchanged, even as another volley came her way, her shield spell flaring to absorb the impact. Meanwhile, Lyra was a blur among the trees. Her arrows whistled through the air with lethal precision. Each shot found a throat, an eye, or a vulnerable joint in armor. She danced between roots and stone, always moving, never letting herself be pinned down. Inigo advanced carefully along the left slope, firing his Desert Eagle with deliberate aim. Every shot exploded like thunder, the large-caliber rounds punching clean through armor and dropping enemies instantly. One bandit raised a magic barrier. Inigo aimed for his leg instead. The man screamed and dropped, writhing. More kept coming. "30's an understatement," Korik bellowed. "They're still spilling out of the forest." Ariane pointed her staff to the treetops. "I see the source. There's a summoner. Top of the ridge." Inigo squinted up and saw a hooded figure standing with outstretched arms, dark energy pulsing around his hands. "Great, a necromancer-looking bastard. Want me to take the shot?" Lyra asked from the left. "No," Inigo said, reloading his mag. "I want to see what you all can do first." He ducked behind a rock as a wave of green fire exploded near him. Korik braced as 3 enemies tried to surround him. One lunged, but the bastion twisted and rammed the man into a tree. Another bandit brought down a sword overhead, but Korik's shield met it midair with a deafening clang. He responded by driving his axe into the man's ribs. "I can do this all day," he roared. "Then do it faster," Lyra yelled, loosing 2 arrows that skewered a dual-wielding attacker sneaking behind Ariane. Ariane, for her part, now floated an inch off the ground. Her body glowed as more symbols circled her. She chanted a phrase and snapped her fingers. A magic sigil appeared beneath several bandits and exploded upward in a geyser of light, launching them into the air like ragdolls. "They're thinning," she said calmly. "No," Inigo said, catching his breath. "They're preparing a second wave." He pointed at the trees beyond. Dozens more figures emerged, some on horseback, others with magical gear. This wasn't just a random ambush. This is an organized mercenary band, Inigo muttered. Shit, someone sent them. Korik was panting now, armor dented but holding. We can't hold much longer without burning through everything. Lyra appeared next to Inigo, her quiver already half empty. Then maybe it's time we show them what real adventurers look like. Inigo smirked. Let's send a message. He raised his hand to the air and tapped his system interface. Cover your ears, he warned. Inigo smirked as the interface flickered in his vision, the faint glow of the system prompt hovering over his retina. A quick flick through the inventory menu, and he tapped a glowing icon with practiced precision. M67 fragmentation grenade. Confirm purchase. He selected yes. A shimmering glow materialized in his palm, a matte green metal sphere with a pin and spoon. The M67 grenade felt warm from the system transfer, but otherwise solid and deadly. Inigo crouched low behind the boulder and pulled the pin with his teeth. Fire in the hole, he shouted. He lobbed the grenade high, the arc clean and perfect as it sailed over the ridgeline where the second wave was gathering. A cluster of enemy fighters had grouped near a tree stump, likely preparing to charge down with spears and spells. The grenade landed at their feet. Boom! The explosion rocked the hillside, sending a shockwave through the forest. A flash of fire and smoke erupted, and several figures were hurled backward like dolls. Limbs twisted, armor shredded. A few managed to scream. Most didn't.